it in the hood with it. Welcome back to the collective clips where you already know we get it in. But before we get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding! Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I am kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support. We're going way up on this channel and it's all because of you. And for that, I'm very humble and I'm graciously saying thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Now, trip out. A guy asked me a question. He said, hey, Gun. First of all, hey, I commend you on all the tortas you pull. I said, it's okay, I be doing that though, sometimes. He said, but first and foremost, let me ask you a question. You know, if the norteños and the sureños, the Southsiders, really came together on that yard, on the prison yards in California, put all the differences to the past, let all the water flow under the bridge, all the sangre that's been spilt from the guerra, from the fights, from the wars, in so many decades, right? If they let it all go and decided to come together on some real life shit, what would happen to everybody else in the facilities, in the prisons, all the different ethnic groups? The Woods, brother? Well, they would have their coffee still, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. The brothers, the others, Asians, Polynesians, the natives, and the paisas, what would happen? What would be their feeling? Would it be all bad for them, all good for them? What exactly would it entail? So here's the answer. They've been being very cordial with each other for the last decade. Okay, for the last over 10 years, there's been an end to hostilities. Now, what is the end to hostilities? People from different states don't quite understand it. A lot of the different states that do have norteños and Southsiders, they still function just like the streets, where it's war. In most places, in some places, it's on site. Get off where you're mad at. I mean, the shit hasn't stopped. The beat must go on like a whisper song, right? But in the state of California, where it's the foundation, where it started, where it all falls back to, right? The West Coast shit. There's been an end to hostilities. And that end to hostilities means that everybody is going to learn to be cordial with each other, to be civil, to get along. Not necessarily to be at odds and at war constantly, like in the past, you know, because in the past it was all bad, especially for the northern cause. You know, norteños having minimal numbers, not being as deep as the Southsiders, they would get to a lot of southern prisons, man, be ridiculed, ran upon, oppressed, told to keep their shirts on, just smashed on any chance that, you know, the Southsiders got. And the Southsiders had sheer numbers, and numbers count in prison. If you have the soldados, the manpower to throw waves at another group, eventually what's going to happen is you're either going to deplete that group to the point where they no longer have soldiers to fight you, so you just basically decimate your opposition, or the administration sees that it's just too bad, and so what they do is they segregate them and they lock them all up. They put them on their own yards. And you know, that's a hard pill to swallow, especially if you're a savage from a cause and you represent it. To be confined or segregated from the general population and placed on these certain yards because they feel you're unable to walk those yards just because one group doesn't want to let you there. It's basically saying, no, we're taking our ball and going home. You guys are not allowed to kick back and play on our basketball courts. That's just how it was like that for several years. Now, what happened with the Fresno Bulldogs, because they were going at it and they were at odds with pretty much everybody, the Woods, North, South, that eventually what happened over time is the administration recognized this. They got tired of doing paperwork because they could care less about blood on the fucking concrete. It's more so about paperwork, lockdown situations. They were just tired of it, putting up with the foolishness and the frivolousness of the activities. And so what they did was they took the Fresno Bulldogs and they segregated them. They put them on their own yards. Okay, they separated them from everyone else. And I understand that because they didn't have the numbers to adequately, you know, compete with everybody else. Administration felt that it was just a headache to have them on these yards. Now, lately, they are being placed back on these integrated yards and you're seeing what's happening. Vatos are getting off on them immediately right off the bus, or they're getting off right off the bus. Either way, man, you signed up for whatever you signed up for, and war is war. And ain't nothing fair in love and war, weaponry, all that. Especially on a 4-yard, a 180-yard, or a 3-yard, 270 design, you're going to get to a place, man, and if they don't want you there, and they got the numbers, well, guess what? Yeah, you said it. They're not going to be there. It's just the way it is. It doesn't matter how down you are. It doesn't matter if you're a rider or a soldier. you can handle your business, you ain't no punk, they're going to lock you up. You don't have to lock it up and roll it up. They're going to roll you up for everyone else. It's just the way it works out. Now, with this end of hostilities and most groups conforming to it, besides the Bulldogs, you know, people have asked me, what about the Paisas? Are the Paisas involved? Well, you got to understand, the Paisas don't run under gang politics. They do function on the same side of the yard as the Southsiders, and they do work hand in hand in certain situations, but the Paisas are their own entity. They got their own thing going on. They have their politics within themselves, and they govern their people however they're going to govern their people, right? But people like the Woods, who are involved in the end of hostilities and are, in some points, brother, we gangs, coffee, meth, and we're not, and Judas Priest, it's all good, or Twisted Sister, depending upon how D. Snyder looks that day, eyeshadow or not, right? They're doing their thing. The brothers, man, are fragmented into different groups. So, of course, they are participating also in the end of hostilities. But for the most part, man, the brothers just have a tendency to do their own thing, and they just want to program on them yards, smoke a little weed, function, do their time, and get on down the road. That's how it is with the brothers. Now, don't get it twisted. The Crips, the Kumis, the Bloods, they will get off where they're mad at. They will handle their business. If something happens with a different ethnic group, and it's always ethnically charged, it's always racially charged, okay, when it comes to the brothers. It's never gang related. They're never tripping off the Southsiders because they're Southsiders. They're never tripping off Norteños because they're from up north and they bang Norte. They're more so tripping on the color lines. It's a color issue when it comes to the blacks. And that's why people say, well, people are always racist against blacks. Well, it just becomes a color line. It doesn't become Crips or Bloods. Now, there are issues where, say, it's the North versus the Crips on that particular yard, and the Bloods will step back and let them handle their business unless different groups become involved, and then it becomes a brother thing. I see you, brother. And that's how it is. You know what I mean? This black power, the power to make motherfuckers like you understand, but you don't recognize. Orale, fucking Bojangles, or what's his name? Bojangles, fuck, I forget his name. The one from Blood In, Blood Out with pockets, right? And the other guy. Anyway, so trip out. When it comes to that, it comes to that. And then it's on like Donkey Kong, right? And Dinky Kong. And it just, people throw barrels at each other on the yard. But what would happen if the North and the South decided to become one to get along? Well, let me explain to you from my perspective and how I see that happening and what could happen. Do I ever see it happening? The wind's blowing. One never knows, does one. Here's knowledge you can't get in college. In the past, certain organizations have tried to have talks. There has been peace talks or talks of forming one entity, one group, one conglomerate of trying to monopolize them prison yards. And that's exactly what it would be. If Norteños and Southsiders got together and let all hostilities go to the past and say, look, there is no more of that shit. We're all one. We're just a raza from Northern California and Southern California. We're all the same, homes across the line. Let me tell you what would happen. It'd be a dangerous situation for any other group. Because now what you have is not only sheer numbers on the southern part, but now you have the viciousness and the tenacity of the northerners coming into the fold. And that right there is a dangerous combination because they would come together and devise tactics and plans. And we all know, man, the Norteño cause has always been the more militant of any group on the yard. Meaning not more militant because they're smarter or they're harder or they're more laced up or seasoned. Just more so because they were a smaller group. So they had to have no chinks in the armor. Nobody was better than the next man. It was all ran in one form or fashion, and everybody was supposed to be up to par and ready to go at all times. Now, when it comes to the Southsiders, there are those that politic and that are involved in the game thick and heavily. And then there are those, because they have so much numbers, that are just doing their time. Hey, they will raise their hand and be accounted for because no one lives on a yard rent-free. Basically, no one is not going to put in their work. Hey, you're going to get your fucking hands dirty like the rest of us, brother. In fact, you want to get them dirty? Go get me a shot of coffee from the essays. And that's how it is. Everybody's going to participate on the southern side. It's just the way it is, right? And I'm not meaning to speak on them because I'm not from the South, but I'm just saying that's how it is. You know, I did time amongst them, so I know their get down. They're dangerous. You know, they're very dangerous. They could shoot waves at you and it could never affect the hierarchy. They could send waves of soldados at you and still have 100 people on that yard. That's how thick they are. And that's why they pose the most threat to every different ethnic group, whether you're white, whether you're black, brown, they pose the biggest threat because they have the most numbers and they have the most soldados willing to go all out at any given time. It's just the way the Southsiders rock, man. Doesn't matter if you're administration, K9, whatever you are. Them vatos, if they feel disrespected and they're, dictated, hey, it's on, then it's fucking on. Shut the whole state down. Period. We've seen what just happened in Ironwood when the cops, slammed whoever, they did whatever they did to the Southsiders. 200 people off on the yard. It's just that simple and that quick. That's how it could be on explosive mode, like a San Quinn and Messy Marv song. Now, trip out. If the North and South came together, you have the best of both worlds when it comes to the Mexicans, the Chicanos, right? Because now you have the numbers of the South and the way they get down and are willing to go all out. And now you have the mindset of the Northern cause, right? The guys that have bled and struggled and strived forever forward, can't stop, won't stop. That mentality coming together, man. And now nobody on the yard would want any type of issues or problems. Because not only will they have the South side to worry about, they'd also have the Northerners to worry about. And if there is no division there and they're all one, it can be a very dangerous situation for everybody. Okay, there's a lot of Norteños, man, that have went through a struggle. And let me explain that struggle to you. I've been to certain prisons where we got there and there was 10 of us, 8 of us, 2 of us. And because of our numbers, I'm not going to sit here and fucking bullshit you, man. The Southsiders were looking a little bit funny. They were looking a little crazy at us. Not disrespectful, but to a point where we had to worry about, could these guys just get a wild hair up their ass that day and decide that fucking they just wanted to fucking fuck off our whole car. No diddy, right? Straight up. And we understood that if they wanted to, they could just snap their fingers and do that. So in most cases, what a lot of Norteños would do in them times was take off first, get off, because they knew there was going to be issues. And it could be all good on a prison yard, North and South. It could be respect, buenos diases, everyone working out, everyone got their own area. And then guess what happens? A vatos, a shoe kick out, or a high power individual, a super sureño who feels, hey, he's not going to function with Northerners because he was in fucking New Folsom on a certain yard and they got into it and he got the shitty end of that stick. And now he feels like Usher and he feels fucking, ashamed. So he's going to come out and he's going to start, manipulating the masses. And next thing you know, the Norteños are going to get taken off on. Now, the Northerners are of an understanding to recognize, that's why they're always aware. They recognize movements and what's going on. And it's just a constant chess match of Northerners trying to recognize who poses a threat and these vatos feeling they're more superior and have the upper hand to push the Norteños out whenever they choose to. And let's be cut and dry and real. I got nothing but love for the Norte, but I'm going to tell you guys straight up. Most Norteños on the yards are only there because the Southsiders have allowed it to happen. Okay? Not that they're punking the Norteños or that they're fucking the Norteño cause ain't a real one, because let me tell you, them vatos are fucking with the activities and the business. They'll cut you up real nice. Scarface, right? Libertad, revenga. Someone friend you, fuck, right? They're down to carve you up real nice. But at the end of the day, like I said, numbers matter. And the Southsiders feel that nobody on a prison yard poses a threat to them. Nobody. I've talked to a gang of Southerners, real seasoned vets, vatos who have been through Pelican Bay, Corcoran Shoe, Tehachapi, High Desert, Salinas Valley. I mean, every worst prison you can think of, Pleasant Valley, they've been there. And they told me straight up, bro, to be honest with you, Gun, no offense, bro, because I know you was rocking with the North, real tough. But Sureño Southsiders feel like nobody poses a threat, that they can do whatever they want on the yard anytime they want to do it. And that's truth. See, I've been going through that ever since I was a youngster. When I was in the Youth Authority in Nellis, it was the same way. They had so many numbers, they just would forget about us and fight amongst their own with their enemigas, because we didn't pose a threat, they felt. Until we put our flags down, set a foundation, and we got off, then vatos took a step back like, oh, I guess these vatos are different. Yeah, we were. A little bit, right? Not a lot of it, but just a little bit. Enough to let it be known that we weren't going anywhere. We were going to keep coming forward because we believed in forever forward. That's the strive of a Norteño, man. Doesn't matter what hardships you go through. If you have a fucking crack in your mask, Holmes, sew it up. And you got the rib gut shit sewn. And it's time, because we refuse to lose. Fuck them 22s. Literally. I got an AP10 and so you know what it is. But imagine a world where North and South came together. Now we're talking about groups and gangs within the prison yards. Okay, so at the end of the day, society, that's just a bigger threat for them, because what starts inside leaks to the outside always. It's not what starts outside goes to the inside. Inside controls the outside. You know that, right? That's just how it goes down. You know, and ain't no fucking Italians in East Law. So I'm getting into my American me hype, but that's just how it is. Okay, so if these volatiles all really came together, and I think this end of hostilities is kind of like a way to look at it. You're getting a quick glimpse of what it could be. You know, we seen the other day, the War Nerd, shout out to the War Nerd, man, Hector, the prison guard dropped that video. I did a reaction to it, which was the SNY inmates, the Bulldogs or whatever. Some say they were SNY inmates. Some say they were Bulldogs that got off on, you know, the North and the South got off on them on the yard. Okay, that right there, and people are saying, well, they had no chance. Well, imagine if North and South is together, period, with no qualms, no barriers, none of that, man. The hierarchy and those that count, man, have a discussion and decide this is what's best for our gente going forward within the system. And it could eventually lead that way, because what you have now, you don't have traditional North and South having the numbers to go to war anymore. See, the more that you go to war, that just gives the administration and the police a chance to prove to the administration in Sacramento, you know, the capital, that these guys are a danger, that they continue to be a threat to these yards, that they continue to be a danger, and eventually they'll slam them all back in the shoes, validate them all, and get them out the way, to where these yards will become nothing but dominantly ran SNY yards, just because there will be no more general population inmates. The vast majority and chunk of North and South will be eradicated from the yards and all slammed back. And ultimately, I think that's the goal of the administration, to get the threats off the yard. But, you know, it's up for the North and the South to decipher that. I'm sure they have, right? But they do pose a big threat. Now, if they came together, there would be a lot more peaceful interaction. There'd be a lot more harmony. Prison is prison. There's always going to be trash. There's always going to be guys that have funny charges. There's always going to be guys that done told on someone way back in the... There's always going to be something going on the yard. It's just the way it is. When you got too many guys on a prison yard and they start to get bored, they start to politic within their own and take out the trash. It's Wednesday. It's trash day, right? Yesterday was Taco Tuesday. Now today's Chorro day. And the shit must go. So they flush their shit out. And everyone deals with their own. But imagine how other groups would feel if they seen these guys and knew that they were one now, that they moved as one unit. The Woods will be like, well, god darn. SAs and N's together, now you know we're in trouble, right? Now, I believe the Woods, just knowing how they function and they get down, because they're dangerous. they're down, right? When it's go time, it's show time. Show and tell. They're going to show you and not tell you shit, right? These individuals have always had decent relationships on some yards with the Southsiders, and cordial, if not sometimes animosity with the Northerners. That's just facts, right? So where would the whites lean? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, knowing how they get down, they're going to lead towards the raza, because they're not going to want any issues with the brown man, because they recognize numbers. They recognize, and the white man is good at making shit work for them. Hey, we're going to twist it on them. We got a Mino Chistoso for them down over here on Indiana Street, brother, right? The Woods are just good at that. Now, the blacks, I believe, would be the biggest group to say, you know what, we got an issue with it. Because there's so much beef that they've had in the past with Southerners going at it on yards, so much guerra and war and blood spill between the two groups. And they've always been at a soft defensive stance with the Northerners, meaning they've always been cool, programmed on the same side of the yard, interacted, and now maybe they would feel let down, or like the North conformed or bow down. That's kind of my mentality, what they would think. But really, man, what's a brown thing is a brown thing. It wouldn't be nobody bowing down, nobody conceding, nobody waving a white flag. What it would be is ultimately two groups, two very well-known vicious groups, deciding it is better to unify than to be apart. And that's just it. Now, with the way prisons are nowadays, with the SNY yards and so many dropout inmates and so many non-active inmates, like myself, I'm non-active, right? And I'm going to do a video on where I would go if I went back to prison coming up in the next couple of days. So make sure you guys tune in for that one, because that one's going to be good. Very detailed, right? But with the way it is now, the way the California prison system has flipped, I would think more so, right? It would probably be a thing where I could see it actually really happening, North and South coming together, just because they are already getting off with SNY. They are already getting off with the other side, what is considered the other side, meaning the protective custody side. And they have dangerous groups as well, PC gangs or just guys that, decided to go that route, and they're going at it. There's war, and the administration's sitting back validating everybody. Fuck it, right? So it could possibly happen. Now, there'd be a lot of changes. These are the things that no one ever talks about. Everyone always says, if we came together, but it would never happen because there's too much animosity. Never say never. In life, be of an understanding is this. What we live out here and how we do it out here is way different than what they do behind them walls. Believe me, I've been on yards that are vastly different than you can even imagine. Why is this guy on the yard? Because we said so. Okay, well, okay, shit, cool, right? It just is what it is. Tomorrow, if a certain group said, hey, Bulldogs walk the yard, guess what? Bulldogs walk the yard, right? That's just how it's going to be. Everyone's going to conform to somebody. Hey, it's part of life, right? It's what you signed up for. Just like Wes Watson's fist conforms to his asshole and Diddy's fucking conform to Usher, those are my confessions. It's just what it's going to be. So now trip out. There's a lot of things that people don't talk about, and here's the little things. How would they do? Because the prison yards are always racially segregated, meaning you got the blacks in the north and the others on one side. You got the paisas, the whites, the natives, and of course the Southsiders on another side. Day room split. Nobody goes on anyone else's side, watches their TVs. On the yards, everyone has their own individual weight piles, their own individual, well, not weight piles, but bars, handball courts, or, different latrine areas, whatever. Everything is already mapped out, and that's why a group like the Bulldogs getting to a yard, it'd be hard for them because they're not going to be given nothing. Vatos ain't going to say, okay, that's your guys' toilet, that's your guys' handball court, that's your guys' bars, go ahead. It ain't going to happen. What side of the day room would North and South function on? Would they come together and just take over a whole side and push everyone to the side? Well, that ain't going to work out because the whites and the blacks, brother, I don't like you breathing that chicken juice over here. Hey, man, we don't like Meatloaf Monday, brother. Shit. You know what I'm saying? Right? There'd be too many issues there. Too many racially charged issues, right? And the Asians be like, mow loud like a motherfucker, right? Usos be like, solid. We ain't trying to deal with this shit. Nobody want to deal with it. So little things like that, would the yard switch up as far as who would program together if it's one big large group? I mean, there's just so many things to think about when you think about it. It would be a big move. It'd be the biggest move in the history of any gangs, anything. It'd be the best move, I believe, because then not only will you sew up the yards where no other group stands a chance or wants that smoke, because let's be cutthroat and honest here, man. No added preservatives. Respects to the brothers, respects to the woods. But if North and South came together, everybody and their grandmother knows, right? That it's over. They're dominating every yard. Not punking people and pushing people out, but have the tools to do that if they would choose to. It's just the way it is. Now, the brothers ain't going to go out like that. The woods, brother, we definitely ain't going to go out like coffee, meth, and knives. You see what we're saying, right? They're definitely going to go with theirs. But it'd be a hard battle to win. Numbers count. So little things like that is what's always interested me. That would be a big flip, a big move. Now, with all these other dropout gangs, they're all together. Now, they've already did that. What I'm talking about here with the general population, Norteños and Southsiders, the SNYs already did that. They've divided themselves into their little gangs, but for the vast majority of them, they don't see color lines anymore. You'll see blacks and Mexicans and whites and everyone together. They look at it as they're one group, they're targeted, so they're all going to get off with the general population. So it could be a time where the general population decides, hey, we're all together against the SNY, and it could be just two big fucking monster groups going against each other. I don't know. I just, when I was asked, will the North and South ever get together? Behind prison, I could see it happening. On the streets is a different story. I think, well, in Southern California, there's no northern cost. There's no northerners moving down there like that, right? So the beat goes on over there. Up north, the upstaters, man, they feel, because of the war that's been fought back and forth, they feel a certain way where Norteños feel a certain way about them. They feel that these vatos have invaded the homelands And so they must be eradicated, whereas upstaters feel that their flag is planted and they ain't going nowhere. So they're going to dominate and take over. So there's always going to be that. But I believe if one group or two groups decided, hey, this is just the fucking way it is, you conform or you get whacked when you come into prison, remember, the inside runs the outside. And that's just what it's going to be. Anyways, with that being said, let me know your opinion. What do you think would happen? Do you think it would be a cool thing, the raza to come together? Or do you think it would be more issues and more problems because now other groups are going to feel threatened, and so it just causes more war and more chaos for the gente? I think, actually, man, just unbiased, it'd be a great thing for the brown men to finally be together and put the bullshit to the side. It's been too long. And I participated in those wars, man, since I was a kid. You know how it felt sitting in a classroom? This is a true story, man. Look at this shit. Sitting in a classroom, Mexican, with nothing but Mexicans around me, and every one of them wants to beat me up. I don't know any of them, never fucked their sister, never did nothing bad to them, never seen them in my life, and every one of these dudes wants to stab the dog shit out of me just because I live in Northern California. Bro, tortillas, government cheese, food stamps, and ramen noodles, we all ate the same bullshit, bro. I wore Cortezes and Chuck Taylors myself, but because I lived in just a few hours away, Valtos wanted to fucking murder my life, and I wanted to murder theirs. And it was crazy. We didn't know why. We were just being told why. Started as a kid. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive, the struggle, the struggle, the strive. Let me know what you think. Am I way totally off base? It'll never happen, eh? Super Sureños and Super Norteños will say, nah, fuck that. It's the XIV to eternity. It ain't gonna happen, right? But I'm here to tell you, man, it would be a lovely thing and beneficial as far as business goes and out there on them yards for everybody. And this is just an outside perspective. Remember, I'm out there fucking going to Home Depot and taking my kids to the zoo. So it's different for me, right? But just looking back, I wish it would have been like that, man. Maybe things would be changed for a lot more people. A lot more of our gente would be free. Think about that, right? Also, I wanted to speak on this. You guys loved the video yesterday on my primo, Super Norteño. Well, guess what? Part 2 is coming up later today. Make sure you tap in for it. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle for what I honestly and truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. Man, North and South together, now you know you're in trouble. Brothers will be like, well, this ain't fair. Woods will be like, hey, now we can ask Northerners for coffee. We're good. Bang, bang.